Doesn't matter if you're white belt or black belt level. Doesn't matter if you're hobbyist or full-time competitor. And it doesn't matter what type of game that you play. These are things that will be able to transfer into your game. I'm also going to teach you guys how you can train these things with any belt level and still get good at it. So like you could be a black belt and still get good using a white belt. Okay, so and vice versa. So I'm going to show you guys some games that we'll play with that, and then I'll go into some of my actual specialties at the end and show you guys some like super high level mechanics for some leg locks and stuff, and then we'll go straight into sparring after that. Okay, but we're going to be doing lots of live today. A lot of different like games, situationals, and then you know, the ball will be rolling nice and smooth. Okay, so the first thing I want to cover is the concept, something I call like the leading edge concept. So basically what this means is I always want to harass, especially when we're playing guard, we need to have constant harassment, because the second that I'm not harassing my man on top, right, he's gonna start coming in, pressuring me, and putting me on my back to pass, right? So I have to make sure that if I'm playing seated guard, I'm constantly attacking him, right? Even if that means just faking to parts of his body, which I'll touch on here shortly, right? You know, I have to make sure that I'm constantly keeping him thinking about me attacking him, okay? So the first thing I want to cover, right, the leading edge. He can fake, right? There's like so many different things that he can do to keep me on a defensive cycle. So go stand here real quick. With that being said, before we go into being 100% proactive, now that you guys understand the difference between the two, I want to go over stance and then just a little bit of kind of like consistent measures that we want to accomplish to stay in a seated position. So number one is ideally like playing on your butt is okay, but the problem with this is for me to actually wrestle up, I have to take my legs out from underneath me. Okay, if I try to wrestle up here, it's gonna be hard unless, you know, I crisscross my legs. You know, I still have to take them underneath me, right? So ideally, I play in a staggered stance to where one of my feet is tucked, okay, and one of my feet are up, right, kind of like this. So like I'll be like this, or I'll be like this, right? Now, what this allows me to do is it allows me easily to heist up to my knees. Okay, it's very easy to play like here, right? Even without my hands, you guys can see that I'm pretty mobile, you know? If I'm just like here, neither leg's tucked or up, and I'm just like symmetrical, this is okay, but it's gonna be, I have to go a whole extra step to get to a point to where now I can heist up. But if I'm already in this position where, you know, I got one hand generally on the floor, and I'm here and I'm playing in this position, then from here, at any point I want, I can go and I can heist into like single legs, wrestle ups, etc. And I can play this dilemma to where when they start to defend single legs and whatnot, we can start going into the legs, right? So you have a much better push-pull game when you're seated and proactive, right? So that's just general stance, right? We tuck one leg, we keep one hand on the floor, just like we're sitting in like a meeting. Everybody copy this real quick. All right, exercise. All right, so this is kind of like how we want to play guard, or at least how I like to play guard. Now, aside from this, is we need good head position, okay? Lower your head. Who has better head position right now? Me or him? Right? Who has better head position now?
You do.
No, it's 50-50. Okay? Who has better head position now? Who has better head position now?
Him.
Okay, so you guys understand the head position a little bit, right? Whoever has inside head position is going to be the one dominating the exchange, right? If I have good head position, right, at no point do I want him to see the back of my neck, okay? And at no point do I want him to be able to, like, you know, be like, you know, inside position, whether it's here, 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 right? I don't want his head, you know, lower than mine, okay? The same is with wrestling, right? If we're wrestling here, who's better head position?
50-50.
It's 50-50, right? Who's better head position?
Him.
Who's better head position?
You.
Okay, so same thing with the wrestling and the guard play is going to be very closely correlated. Okay, so we have stance, we have head position, okay, and then now monitoring the hands. Okay, now this is going to be a little bit inconsistent because we're constantly playing with the leading edge as well. But ideally, if I can always look to push hands into him, right, his only way to free his hands are through the false of my grips, right, the space between my thumbs and my fingers. So if I'm pushing hands into him, where is his hands gonna go? They gotta go back, which expose me to the legs, okay? So this is just an example of, just being proactive with our grip fighting. Also, if I monitor his hands, like, whether I'm pushing here, whether I have a 2-on-1, a 1-on-1, whatever, right? He can't get underhooks on me until he clears my grip, so he's already a step behind, okay? And also, even if he were to get me on my back and flank me all the way to north-south, or just, right, go to pass. See, I'm pushing the hand into him and using it as a frame. We'll go over this in a little bit. It's kind of a newer way of guard retention. But I want you guys, we're gonna run the same drill, but this time for 3 minutes, okay? And I want you guys to work on these 3 things in unison with what we just worked, the leading edge concept. So now it's stance, head position, and then monitoring the hands by pushing hands into them and constantly looking to fight the hands. Does that make sense, everybody?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, this time if top person is able to get a underhook, right, then it's a win for him. Bottom person, it's continuous. There's no win for bottom person. If a person on top just snipes an underhook, right, boom, right, it's just a reset. Okay, so we cannot allow this. And we don't allow this by keeping good position, right, and pushing hands, monitoring the hands. You guys understand? Okay. All right, let's give this a try. 3 minutes each person. 1, 2, 3. Basically, it's something that I use for grip fighting. You can use it from top position, bottom position, wrestling, guard bashing, guard play, across the entire board of grappling or wrestling, right? So just getting like a good guard passing stance. Yeah, exactly. All right, so basically the leading edge means I need to attack, harass, and or negate the edges of my partner's body that are closest to me. So many times you'll see people playing guard, for example, and they'll do something like, maybe I am a really good leg locker, so I'm going for his legs, but as you can see, his hands are in front and his head's in front. So the legs are the edges of his body that are technically the farthest away from me. So the leading edge basically means that in this case, I would either probably go for grips to his hands and harass his hands, or I would go for his head. Now, because his head is not going to move as much of as his hands, I'll probably go for the head first. So it'll look something like, maybe I'll just grab a collar tie, and as he goes to strip the grip, grab a nice wrist grip, then I can start gaining 2-on-1s and then going into points of connection, okay? So the first thing I want us to work on with a partner is basically what we're gonna look to do is I want you guys to look to grab and make connections to the things closest to you. And when you feel like you're about to lose those connections, don't wait until those connections are lost to grab something else. When you feel like, for example, when I feel like my hand is about to slip, I'm already gonna transfer to something else that's closest to me, okay? So basically, we'll have one person on bottom, one person on top. I'll run the clock for around 4 to 5 minutes each person, right? So one person will be on bottom for 4 to 5 minutes. You guys understand the drill? Mm-hmm. So the second, it's one thing to grab somebody, but if I can like play this game to where I get in a loaded stance where like I'm faking, right? Then it's also gonna keep him guessing, right? And if he's guessing, he's already on defensive cycle, right? So you could fake high and grab low, or you could fake low and grab high, or you could just fake both ways. But constantly when I'm playing guard, if I'm just here and I'm just looking to grab, let's just do like a short 10-second flow. Right, like he's not, like I'm grabbing him, but nothing is keeping him actually guessing whether I'm gonna grab him or not, right? We want to constantly harass him, and you can harass him without even touching him. So let's do another 10-second flow. Right, if he doesn't react to the fake, then we get our grab, right? So if I faked something and he doesn't react, just grab that shit, right? But ideally, and you'll see this in a lot of my matches, a lot of like Gordon's matches too. Joseph Chen is great at doing this. We fake, and all the time you'll see like as I'm faking, they might step a leg back, right? Exactly, like or they'll bite to the fake, just like wrestling. So we don't only need to make connection to harass someone. We can just harass them just by faking to things, and if they don't react to the fakes, then we attack. Okay, so we're gonna do the same game, but this time it's gonna be 2 minutes, higher pace. I want the person on bottom looking to make connection, right? If the person on bottom makes connection for 3 seconds, right, that's a win, whether it's to the legs, the arms, or the head. Okay, person on top, you have the same goal: snipe the underhook and look to count angles. Okay, so again, keep them guessing by throwing in constant fakes. You guys got it? Get into attacks. Okay, so 2-on-1s can look basically 5 different ways. We got downwards facing and upwards facing variations, and then we got 2-on-1 wrist, right? 2-on-1 elbows, right? Or then 2-on-1 arm drags, right? My favorite, and what I think is the strongest, other than like an arm drag grip, which I think is probably a little bit more difficult to actually grab directly, is the 2-on-1 elbows. Now, when I grab a 2-on-1 elbow, I want to go for the elbow first and then gain the wrist, ideally. Why? Okay, if I go for the wrist and the elbow at the same time, he just moves his arm away, right? It can be difficult. But if I go for the elbow, he moves his arm away, then I gain the wrist. Because I have his elbow, when he moves it away, it sticks. So I pull it back, right? And then I can gain the wrist, right? So ideally, I go for the elbow and then I obtain the wrist, okay? This is like super important detail, right? If I'm going for the wrist first, I'm not saying it's not gonna work, but he's sweaty, I got small hands, he's got big forearms, and even if he wasn't bigger than me, and even if we weren't sweaty, it'd still be fucking hard to hold on to for long periods of time, right? But if I go to the elbow first, now he goes to pull away, it's much more difficult, and I can start making connection and being proactive off once I get inside position. So that's like the technique of a 2-on-1 elbow. Ideally, I want to dig my fingers into this notch right here. You'll feel like this bony callus that basically separates his forearm bones to whatever this bone is called, right? His bicep area. And you just want to basically plant your fingers inside of there, right? Obtain the elbow, and then you could go downward facing or upward facing. I like upward facing. Why? Because if I go downward facing, where's the false of my grip pointing towards? Him, right? And he strips it back towards his own body, and now he can go to like underhooks and all that type of stuff. However, if I go into an upward facing, he just pulls his hand into my palm, okay? Even if he pulls it back into himself, right, he just pulls me in stronger, right? So like, we're basically just building walls where he wants to pull his grip back into, okay? So we go for the elbows first, and then we obtain the 2-on-1 elbow, okay? Now, we obtain these 2-on-1 elbows by attacking leading edges. So again, one of my favorite ways to do this is I go for the head, he strips it off, boom, and we go right into our 2-on-1 elbow, okay? Now, when I gain a 2-on-1 elbow grip, this is I'm sure that what I'm about to show is gonna answer a lot of your guys' questions, okay? What the fuck do I do once I get 2 points of connection? Gain 4 points of connection, right? The more points of connection I have to him, the better. If I just hold on to this 2-on-1 and he just dips off to the side, just do a big back step and just walk across my body, boom. Not good for me, right? Also, if I'm not connected to him, he just steps into a half guard, forces me on my back, right? Not good for me either, okay? So whenever I gain these 2-on-1s, right, I want to go straight into inside position with my feet and connect my ankles to the inside of his legs here. Now when he goes to bank off side to side, right, and I can start to off balance him. He'll start stumbling here, and I'm not even doing anything, okay? And that's not even including the stuff I'm about to show once we get here, okay? So ideally, once I gain these connections, I just need to gain 4 points of connection, okay? Even if he were to strip his arm away, 4 points of connection are always gonna be better than 3 or 2, okay? We always need to look for 4 points, okay? Now, because our legs are on the inside, this is gonna feed into all the leg locks and stuff that we're gonna work here in a little bit, but this needs to be one of our main goals, okay, is to get to these 4 points of connection and then capitalize off of this. Now, the next drill that we're gonna do, guys, is gonna be the same, basically everything that we've just did combined, okay? We're gonna go 4 minutes each person, but now the goal is to, once you obtain connection, to gain 4 points of connection and for at least 3 seconds. If you can have 4 of your limbs attached to him for at least 3 seconds, that's a win. But what that doesn't mean is this. I don't want to see any of this shit. Okay? I'm not saying this is bad, but it's not good because are my legs connected to him in a meaningful way?
No.
No. Okay? It could be like this. It could be like this. It could be like this. It can be like this. This, right? Etc. Right? We need meaningful connections. Pretend your feet are hands and you're connecting to your opponent with your hands, right? Your feet, right? If your feet were hands and they were like this, right? Just as if my hands are like this, I'm not connected to them, right? So connected to them. I basically just clip behind his ankles and I push, right? If for another direction that I can go, you know, if I can't go back, then I can go forward, right? So ideally, before I show the second one, when we have 2-on-1, it's super important that we never pull him straight into us. Okay, I'm just gonna literally pull him into like a body lock or an underhook. We always want to pull 2-on-1s across our center line or above our center line, right? Both of these are gonna expose him to attacks, okay? So always pull the 2-on-1s across or above center line, right? Now, again, right, once I get 4 points of connection, I can either take him backwards by pushing the arm in between his legs to his crotch area and clipping behind, right? Or I can go into these foot trips. Basically, what this means is I just, instead of going into double koichi, taking it backwards, I just post on his foot and I pull his hands to the foot. Stay a good base. Pretty easy to do that, okay? And then now we have like wrestle ups, we got leg entries, I have inside position, right? I mean, like there's so many different things that I can do from here, okay? Most of the time, what I would say is when I grab these 2-on-1s, I'm immediately looking to hit this, and when he resists by pulling away, I go into the foot trips, right? So that's basically, I would say, probably my highest percentage off balances from here. But once we hit one of these things, and then we go into attacks. Okay, you don't want to go into an attack on somebody. Ideally, you can, but you don't want to. At least I don't want to attack somebody when they have a good base. Okay, when they have good balance, because then, you know, if he has good balance.